Hi and welcome to another Handy Quilter Sweet 16 Sunday. I'm Paula Storm and today is part 3 of our 3-part program of working on the Table Runner project. This is a project that's done completely from start to finish on the Sweet 16 using the AccuQuilt Go to cut out all our pieces. Now today's the final stage. We've done the piecing using the Sweet 16 and cutting out our strips. We've done that using the Quilt As You Go technique in part 1. The second week we did our applique with the flowers. We cut out the shapes using the AccuQuilt and then we quilted it using the raw edge applique technique. Today we're going to do the final quilting in the background of the piece. So today we're going to need our background fabric. So I've just chosen out this cute butterfly fabric that goes with the rest of my piece. And we're going to put that on and we're going to use some rulers. Now I really like these Handy Quilter rulers. It's a good idea to get proper quilting rulers. You can't really use, or you can't at all use your regular rulers to do this technique because they're too thin and they'll slide underneath your needle and you'll end up breaking your ruler, throwing out your timing, breaking needles, that sort of thing. So please make sure you do get the proper rulers that are a good 1/4 inch thick. These ones are a lot thicker than your traditional rulers, so make sure you get the thick rulers for this technique. I've chosen 3 different rulers. We're going to use the mini scallop ruler. We're also going to use the Wave F template and also the Wave B template. And we're going to use those in lots of different ways, just having a play. I've designed this project as a real learning experience. So we're going to use them in lots of different ways to make a really attractive finished piece. So let's get to the machine and have a play. Okay, so first of all what I'm going to do is take my regular straight edge ruler. We use this in the first week to attach all of the strips to the background, and because my backing fabric isn't attached at all to anything yet, I'm just going to run a basting stitch all the way around the outside to make sure all of the layers are held nice and securely. So I'll go up to the menu and select half speed. That's my preferred speed for doing basting. And I'm going to run around the outside and I'm going to line up my foot at the ends right on the edge of my piecing so I get a nice 1/4 inch seam around the outside. And for the edges I'm just going to guesstimate and try and get as straight a line as possible. Now in the end I am going to trim off all of these edges, so this basting stitch is actually going to be cut off at the end, so I'm not going to worry about it being seen. So I'm just going to try and get some nice even stitches along with the outsides. Okay, so next step is to do some ditching around the flowers. I'm calling it ditching basically because we've done the raw edge, but that only went through the top layer and the batting layer. So what we need to do now is go around all of the flowers through all 3 layers. So now we've got our backing attached, we need to go through that layer as well. So what I've done is change out my thread colour. So I've got just it's called So Fine. It's the So Fine thread in a grey colour. So that's going to pretty much blend with everything except the black, and I don't mind it showing a little bit on the black. So now that I've changed my thread, I've just checked on the outside edge here. I just had a little bit of batting and backing fabric left over. So I've folded the backing over and just stitched through those 3 layers to check my my stitches and make sure that my tension is good. And it looks fine. So let's go ahead and just stitch around all of the flowers. Now as usual, I bring up my bobbin. And I've got my machine set on 40%, and we'll just see how that goes. I may want to speed that up a little bit, but when I'm ditch stitching or outlining something, I usually like to keep the machine fairly slow, just so that I don't get flustered and go off, way off the edge that I'm trying to follow. So I'm just going to go around with nice even stitches all of the piece. Now the reason I didn't have the backing on when I did the raw edge applique is because I don't want all of those stitches showing up on the back. What I want on the back is really just the actual quilting, the quilting in itself. So that's why I've left the backing fabric off until now. But if you're in a hurry and you were, for example, doing some last minute gifts and you needed to finish it in a hurry, then by all means you could absolutely put the backing fabric on at the same time as you're doing the strip piecing, and also at the same time as doing your raw edge, and you would not need to do this extra quilting in your piece. But for me, I'm classing this as a practice piece, and so I'm going to make it look as nice as possible and keep those stitches on the back nice and neat. Okay, so now I'm back at the start. I'm also just going to swing around the inside circle as well, and that will show a full flower on the back of my piece. So if I like, I can use this as a two-sided piece, and it will look just as beautiful on the back as it does on the front, except you will see all of your quilting on the back. Before I get back to the start, I'm just going to snip off those threads from where I started. And there we go. So I'm just going to outline all of the flowers, and then we'll get working on the background quilting, which is what's going to be the fun part today. Okay, and there we go. So now I'll turn it over so you can see. And I'm not sure how well that'll show up on camera, but we've got the outline of the flowers here on the backing piece. So that's, at the moment, that's all that's showing up. So now we're going to go back in to the right side and get the rulers out, and we're going to have a play with that. Okay, so our next step is to go in and do some work in the strips in the background, and I'm going to use some of the Handy Quilter rulers. This mini scallop ruler is really cute, and what I love about these rulers is that on the back of the packet you get lots of ideas of ways you can use these rulers. So for the mini scallop, you could use it to make shingles for a roof, you could make waves, or maybe even turn it sideways and use that as scales for a fish. But today we're going to use it like in the sashing, and I'm just going to do a line of scallops down either side of one of the strips. And I'm going to repeat that every so often across the piece, just like we've varied the use of the fabrics in the background. I'm going to vary the use of the rulers in the background. So I'll find a section and we'll get started on using the scallop ruler. Okay, now just like with all of the rulers, there's some guidelines on this ruler, and so I'm going to use that very top solid line at the top there, and I'm going to line it up along one of my seam lines. And that's going to mean it's going to be even the whole way down. So I'm going to start right at the top, which is outside of where I'll actually be trimming that off, so it's outside of the piece, but I want to start there. And as usual, I just bring up my bobbin. Okay, now with the rulers, what you want to do is make sure that the foot is in contact with your ruler at all times, and that's going to give you those nice even stitches. I'm just going to stitch up and down a few times to create a knot, so I'm not worried about those being pulled out of the needle. And then I'm just, as I said, I'm lining up that line with one of the piecing lines, and I'm just going to start pushing the piece and holding the ruler steady. Now if you find it sliding around on you at all, you can put the handy grip dots on the back of the ruler, and I'm just going to have a bit of a play and see if I need the handy grip on this ruler. And it actually is sliding just a fraction on me, so I may just pull out some handy grip and pop it on the back of the ruler. So as I've shown you before, this is the handy grip, and inside the packet you get these strips, and they're basically, they look and feel just like sandpaper. And so what I will do is just cut off some 1-inch pieces of the handy grip and stick that to the back of the ruler. I'll probably put one at this end and one up this end, maybe one in the middle if I feel like it's moving. But this ruler is actually it's quite small and compact, so I think I'll only probably need the 2 pieces of handy grip. Okay, so I'm going to flip my ruler over, peel off the backing paper and put that one up there. Okay, and we're ready to go again. Now the beauty of this ruler is that the pattern repeats every time. So when I need to move the ruler, it doesn't matter where I start. As long as I start in an inner groove, I know that the repeat's going to be exactly the same. So my piecing's going to look exactly the same the whole way down. So I can feel already that that's heaps better. It's not sliding around on me. Okay, I can stop in that groove, flip my ruler around and keep going. And now I'm off the edge of the piecing. What I'm going to do is flip it around and line up that edge once again on my piecing line, and I'm going to head straight back up the other side. And because we did some wonky piecing in the first part, these are actually going to vary. The distance between the stitches is going to vary up the side of the strip, which I think is quite cute. And you'll find that you're better at one side or the other. So if you want, you can stop at the end and come back up to the top and start again. If you find it easier to work from top down, which I think I actually do find it easier to work top down, then by all means just cut your threads at the other end and start again at the top. So there we go, that's the first section done. And as I said, I'll just repeat that every so often across the quilt, and then I'll grab another ruler and have a play with something else. If you want, you could actually also go back in and fill in that section with quite a heavy fill, and that would look really nice. Maybe you could do some little pebbles or some small stippling, something like that. That would look really cute down the center as well. Okay, so the next ruler we're going to use is the Wave F template. This one has both a very deep wave and a shallow wave. And on the back of this one, I really like this little design here. I think that's really quite cute. So it's got the wave that you do first, and then on the high point and the low point of the curve, you come in and do a little swirl and then fill in with a heart underneath the swirl. So I'm going to give that a go, and instead of just filling in the one strip like we did with the first ruler, I'm actually going to take this design over about 3 strips and see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to use that design that I just showed you in this little section here. So I'm going to do the wave with the ruler, and I'm going to use this grey strip here for the wave, and I'll just line it up with any of the lines, it doesn't really matter. My ruler's shifting just a little bit, so I'm just going to stop and readjust. And when I get to the end with this ruler, with this pattern repeat, which I have shown you once before, but at the start and the end you've got a line. So rather than taking the ruler or the stitching right to the end of the ruler, you want to stop at that line, and then you can adjust the ruler and start again at the line, and that way your repeat of your pattern will be exactly the same the whole way. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there. And I'm actually, because that's kind of a high point, I'm actually going to do my first swirl from here. So I'm going to bring it out and swirl around here and then come back to the middle. Backtrack on myself and back to the start. And then we'll throw in the little heart here. Like that. Now I don't have enough room here to do a swirl, so I'm going to come back to this high point and take my swirl out this direction, and I'm going to fill in this section here with this swirl. And if you have a look at the pattern, the heart is always on the opposite side of your swirl. So in this case, we've got one swirl going that way, so I'm going to put a heart here. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to bring my swirl around this way. And that way my hearts are always opposites. So that's the first full one. I'll come up here to the next high point now. Now with the first one, I had the swirl going to the back. The second one, I had the swirl coming to the front. So I'm going to go with the swirl to the back again. And there we go. So that's the swirl. Now we're going to the heart. And we're done. So we'll come up to the next. And I've actually just broken my thread. So that's telling me that a couple of things might have happened. My tension might be a little bit tight. My needle could be blunt and I might need a new needle, or I'm using the wrong size needle for my thread. So I'm actually going to just switch out my needle because I know I've been using this one for quite a while. Rethread my thread and hopefully we'll be right to go again. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in here and do my swirl on the other side. And even though this is right at the top and it may actually be cut off, I am going to do another set of swirls here, just in case. I don't want to have the piece looking like I stopped prematurely. I want it to look nice and full and even. And there we go. So that's that one done. We'll have another, I'll find another ruler and have another play.